I'm really glad to be here, and I'm really glad to be at the Boogie Stage at the John Hartford Memorial number 9. It's obvious you guys know what goes down here because you got up early to be here at 1:30 today. Appreciate that, and I know you're going to enjoy it. This is my favorite part of the festival right here, my favorite stage at the festival, and this is my favorite gig at the festival. I'm really glad to be able to introduce to you these people. And this Story Songs Workshop is a very special place because in memory of John Hartford as we gather, a supreme storytelling songwriter, poet, musician, and has inspired a lot of us and has inspired these people. And as you'll see, there's a number of ways to get to that beautiful place on the cosmic path, as Ernie would say. Couple of quick announcements before we start the music, though. First aid. Important to be safe here. This is the first time we're opening this stage, but up in the pavilion, if you need a Band-Aid or worse, you'll find first aid up there. Very important to remember where that is when you're hurt. Second thing would be lost and found. There are children and dogs that people are letting go of every once in a while. That's where you'll find them, or where you'll go to adopt one if you need one. Or that cell phone that you just can't remember what happened to it, or the keys. Very important also up there in the pavilion area. Keep the cars off the gravel roads if you can, or we'll be calling out your name and your number and et cetera to have you move it. And how about a hand for the new owners of the park, the Voiles, who have built a bathroom and a shower for us. And if you haven't been in there yet, well, you'll get in there eventually, hopefully, because it does get cozy in here as we go on down the road, and we'd appreciate that too. One of the things that's important to remember about the real bathrooms is to not throw stuff in the urinals and in the toilets and in the sinks that doesn't belong there or that doesn't go down. Things like diapers, as an example. They should go in the trash. Let's keep it in a nice and as clean a condition as we can for as long as we can through the duration, because it's going to get heavily used. So that's all I've got for the moment. What I want to do now is introduce to you the Story Songs set. Ernie Hill, if you haven't met him, he's one of the most personable, kind, peace-loving humans that you'll meet. He's also extremely creative, and he understands something about the songwriting method that's unique and fun to share and fun to be a part of. So I'm looking forward to enjoying this. He'll introduce everybody else. Enjoy yourselves at the Songwriting Workshop with Ernie Hill.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out. We're really, really tickled to have you all here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking. I want to thank David Bellavia, our MC, for covering all the bases, because they're so important to make this thing work. And we all love each other. We see the same faces every year, and the new ones came with you. We said, bring someone you love, and you did. And we're very happy about that. So, Story Songs, what we're going to do here, we're each going to play an original song, and we're going to talk a little bit about the process. You know, maybe what sparked our creativity. I'm pushing 62. I've looked at songwriting all my life, never from a commercial standpoint, and when you hear what I do, you'll see why. But, you know, I do it because I love it. But I've discovered, as old Wild Bill would say from Eureka Springs, there ain't no rules. There are no wrong answers. You know, follow your muse. That's why we're here, right? Okay. Dave mentioned toilets, and I have a very close to toilets. I've known quite a few in my life. And our friends, the Match Sellers, Julie Bates, Andrew Morris, they did and beside Andrew, we have Mr. Bill Poss from Effingham, Illinois. And we have Dylan Hoff from all over the galaxy. He currently resides in Eureka Springs. Dylan is backing up his lovely wife, Elena, who is our songwriter today. Yeah. So yesterday on the main stage, Julie and Andrew performed with their alter ego band, the Match Sellers Bluegrastronauts, and they were doing cosmic stuff. And I'm all into that because, you know, I don't think we're from this planet. You know, most of us, anyway, we don't act like we are, or do we? So, this is a song about space toilets, and this is for you two.
That's why you invited us here.
Yeah. Yeah, what got their attention was we're going to step one foot into the lunatic fringe, and maybe pull the other one back out, and maybe switch. We can dance, some lunatic dance. But several years ago, there were issues about toilets in space, serious issues because there's no gravity. So you know what you're up against, possibly, right? Stuff floats. And so there's a goofy song I wrote about that, based on it. I just felt it needed to be said now because someday we'll probably be doing this. So, boom, boom. I'm sitting up here with the toilet paper, contemplating gravity and vapor. It's my first time in space, and there's stuff floating around my face. What would it have been worth if I'd have gone before I left the earth? I never saw Captain Kirk or Scotty ever attempt a trip to the potty, and now I know why. No gravity makes things fly, and I'm looking all around, dodging particles that won't fall down. Oh, I don't want to be a spaceman. I'd rather be back in my own place, man. I like to feel nice and neat and sit securely on the seat and never have to rush and know everything goes down with just one flush. Oh, put me back on my own planet. I want to know I can go to the can. It shouldn't feel like this. Oh, what about heavenly bliss? I can't even take a picture of what might develop from this mixture. I don't want to be a spaceman. I don't want to be a spaceman. I don't want to be a spaceman. No. Thank you. There's a theory that pretty much states that everything you ever hear in your lifetime comes in one ear and actually moves around before it goes out the other. That's true. My wife tells me, it just goes straight through. It depends on what you're listening to. And I have that feeling, that what you see and what you perceive is going to bounce around. And whether you feel like you're creative or not, at some optimum time when things are perfect, or maybe even not, they're going to gel. And you can spit it out, and always do. Spit it out in your cell phone recorder or whatever, just get it down. So with that being said, this song happened about that fast. So we're going to move to Julie now, and Julie does a song and we'll talk. So.
Well, we're going to do a song together, aren't we, Andrew?
I guess. You want to do that long dessert piece?
Sure.
Well, yeah, I guess kind of halfway sticking with a space theme tune. We're going to do a song that I wrote a while back. We started coming up with this Bluegrassronauts concept and sort of working on it. And I wrote a bunch of songs, and some of them are really terrible. But anyway, I always find, like, when I'm working on a project like that, I've got to, kind of like read a lot, get some inspiration. So I got on this Philip K. Dick kick. I don't know if you know Philip K. Dick. He's an author from like the 60s and 70s and I think maybe early 80s, but it's kind of a part of that sort of psychedelic counterculture type stuff. But oh man, his books were just so good. I read like 10 of them. They were just amazing. And the first one I read was the Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is kind of the book that the movie Blade Runner is based off of. And at the very end of the book, there's this line where the main character, I can't remember his name now, but he's...
because there's a machine, right, that you can like push a button and it'll make you feel a certain way. It's like a motion machine.
Right.
And he wants...
Yeah, it's exactly.
Emotion.
Yeah, so like at the very end of the book, he's laying down, and after kind of he's had the whole experience of the book, and he programs in this emotion, this feeling called the long-deserved peace, and I always just thought that was a really, really nice, just a nice phrase, and I didn't actually come up with it when I was reading the book. It was actually later. I kind of had written this sort of old-timey tune. And was trying to figure out some words that didn't sound really stupid in it. And so I flipped open the book, actually, to kind of that random page. and saw that phrase again. And so this is one called The Long Deserved Peace. No, Bill, you're not in my way. You can't be in my way. Try this one. Well, give me a helping of that long-deserved peace. I've been traveling too long on my feet. My legs are getting heavy and my knees are growing weak. Give me a helping of that long-deserved peace. And pass me a bottle of that dark red wine. For your face won't I no longer pine. Tomorrow I'll regret it, but tonight I feel just fine. Pass me a bottle of that dark red wine. Oh yeah. And hand me the Bible sitting on the chair, the one with the cover so black and bare. My mother, she left it laying right there. Hand me the Bible sitting on the chair. And give me a helping of that long-deserved peace. I've been traveling too long on my feet. My legs are getting heavy and my knees are growing weak. Give me a helping of that long-deserved peace.
Well, thank you, Andrew and Julie. Are there songwriters out here? I see lots of hands coming up. Anybody want to be? You thought about it? Writers in general? You want to be? Well, then you are. So, Andrew has lived probably several lifetimes based on that song. I would say you wrote this later, and you are obviously needing a break. Is that correct?
We're needing a break. Well,
Did you make yourself write the song, or did you just come to you?
You know, it's actually really interesting. I don't actually think about kind of the process, and very often I kind of forget like how I write tunes. Yeah, but that one I know for sure definitely came from that melody. That was definitely at a time where I was writing a lot of, or I don't know, I was just getting really into old time music.
Yeah.
And really into kind of those like, you know, almost Zen-like kind of repetitions that happen in a lot of old time music. You know, fiddle tunes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think a guy like I've been really into Don Stover. I've been listening to a lot of him, and I think kind of his music sort of draws from whatever that kind of Zen-like well is. And that was, yeah, I know that was definitely a time when I was feeling just a little bit exhausted, just from being a musician in general. And I know that sounds like kind of a, maybe like a pompous thing to say, you know, I'm not out there digging ditches or something, but, you know, you're going out there every night, like, booking gigs, driving like 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, whatever, and, you know, sometimes you play, you know, the ups and downs of the kind of playing music full time are kind of exhausting. You know, sometimes you get out there and you like pack a house and you've got like, you pack a house and you've got a wonderful crowd there, and then you'll go the next night and play and there'll be like 5 people there, and it just gets exhausting, kind of the sort of emotional roller coaster of like, what the heck am I doing this for? And I think kind of subconsciously maybe a lot of that sort of stuff was coming out. And there was also a time at a friend's wedding where I drank a bunch of wine and felt really terrible the next morning, so that kind of came out of in a lyric too.
So, at what point in your life, the best you can remember, did it dawn on you that you were going to write a song, you had just written one, or hey, I've got a line here? Have you been a musician all of your life?
The first tune I specifically remember writing was in like 5th grade. I had this great teacher named Mrs. Van Dyne, and she would teach us a bunch of like really cool vocabulary words. And I remember one of the words or kind of phrases she taught us was kangaroo court, where kind of before, you're already convicted before you do anything. It's kind of amazing that I learned that word in 5th grade, and I like very seldom hear it. But anyway, I wrote a song that went like, I'm in a kangaroo court, I'm already convicted with 1,000,000 others. And I don't even know like what that meant, but I remember, I didn't like play any instruments or anything, but I just always kind of had fun. I just always found it fun, kind of, I don't know, just kind of happens, I guess,
happens.
for me.
So you picked up probably a guitar first?
Yeah, I started playing guitar first.
Long after that?
Long after that,
Okay.
yeah. So, I don't know, several years when I was in middle school is when I started playing guitar and got, anyway, I don't need to know if I need to hear my whole life story here.
Well, I do.
But,
somebody's going to hear you, and they're going to think, you know what, I had a moment like that. I wish I would have pondered it just a little longer, but it's not too late. So I kind of started playing guitar in middle school and got super into like Muddy Waters. I got like really into Buddy Guy especially. I just loved how just kind of wild and insane his guitar playing was, Buddy Guy's in particular. And Bill Monroe talks about this concept of like the ancient tones, and I think I like read that in a book when I started getting into bluegrass in college, but I don't think I ever like really started getting it until kind of recently, and I think when I look back, that was sort of all the stuff that I was always kind of drawn to, was just this stuff that kind of felt primordial, or just it just kind of came from just sort of like these sort of ancient tones that come from some kind of bizarre well, and you don't really know why you feel connected or pulled to it, but it just kind of comes. And it could be a song like Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper. I think that tune has some like really ancient stuff in it. It doesn't have to be like, it can be digital music, or whatever, but and I guess that's kind of always sort of what I've been hunting after, and I think kind of Muddy Waters tapped into that. I think Bill Monroe tapped into whatever these sort of ancient tones are. A lot of those great Irish ballads, green grows the laurel, soft falls the dew. There's just something, I don't really even know what it is, but there's just something about those kind of ancient tones that I feel like that I just like, yeah. And it's in you. Yeah, and Norman Blake always struck me as someone who wrote from 100 years back at least.
Right, yeah.
Well, we're going to move down to Mr. Bill Poss. And Bill, you've recorded several CDs that your music, your songwriting, to me, covers everything. and is entertaining in every facet. So, let's do us a song, and we'll talk about it.
Can I get a little more of this, please? Thank you. Well, I'm going to play a song. Thank you, Ernie. I was very flattered to hear you say that. I notice there's a lot of folks here that attend the Walnut Valley Bluegrass Festival in Winfield, Kansas.
Yeah.
And I started going there 1993. And so I'm going to play this song for those folks, especially if anybody hangs out in the Pecan Grove. You may have actually heard this song once or twice. This is the only song, Ernie, it's the only protest song that's ever done any good.
Oh, okay.
This is it right here.
I think I know it. I think I do.
So there was a shortage, and since you brought up the toilet issue earlier, I'm not going to pass up this opportunity to do this one song that I would never otherwise do. And maybe I can get you all to sing along. It's really a shout along. It's not really a sing along. You don't have to worry about tone or pitch or anything. Just shout along. And when I say, why is everybody yelling Stella, if you yell Stella back at me, that would be great. So we were in the Pecan Grove at the Walnut Valley Bluegrass Festival, and there was a shortage because there was an explosion of population at the Pecan Grove this particular year. There was a shortage of porta potties, and so every night we would sit up playing music until 3 or 4 in the morning, and then in the morning, and people would stay up. They get really drunk, I think, and they would yell Stella at the top of their lungs all over the Pecan Grove, and it would keep everybody awake until 5 or 6 in the morning. And then they'd finally pass out, and then at about 7:45 or so, the ice trucks would start rolling around the campground. They had this great old John Deere with an engine that kind of wakes you up very gently, and then you get the bullhorn. Ice, coffee, tea, donuts, all this stuff. And so all anybody wants to do at that point is go to the bathroom. So we all get up out of our tents and race to the bathroom, and that's where I was when I wrote this song, because I was in line about 10 deep, and it wasn't going very fast. And so I decided that I would write a song about it to distract myself, and this became the only protest song that ever did any good anywhere. Well, I'm selling hot coffee and ice cold tea, but that's not what interests me. And ice, who needs ice? Just let me in the porta pot, that'd be nice. Here's your turn. And tell me, why is everybody yelling Stella?
Stella!
I'm about to turn your bluegrass yellow. I say we start going in by twos, 'cause I've got the shit can blues. Woo! I'm holding it back with all I got. If it was just a little longer, I'd tie it in a knot. And ice, who needs ice? Just let me in the porta pot, that'd be nice. And tell me, why is everybody yelling Stella? Stella! I'm about to turn your bluegrass yellow. I say we start going in by twos, 'cause I've got the shit can blues. So I got about that far into writing the song before my turn came at the porta potty. And I walked back to my tent, and my brother was with me, and he said, you know, Bill, in Australia they call a porta potty a thunderbox. And I thought that was kind of onomatopoetic. Call it a thunderbox, call it a John, call up the cops when I pee on the lawn. And ice, who needs ice? Just let me in the porta pot, that'd be nice. Real loud now. Tell me, why is everybody yelling Stella? Stella! I'm about to turn your bluegrass yellow. I say we start going in by twos, 'cause I've got the shit can blues. Imagine trying to sleep through that. Is anybody here, most of you have been in a porta potty. If you're here, I assume you've been in some, one or two. Okay, so you may, for this last verse, you may want to just close your eyes, hold your nose. Imagine that you're inside a porta potty for this last verse. Well, this little old lady, she tapped me on the shoulder, said, someone's been peeing in the handbag holder. Ice, who needs ice? Just let me in the porta pot, that'd be nice. Last time. Why is everybody yelling Stella? Stella! I'm about to turn your bluegrass yellow. I say we start going in by twos, 'cause I've got the shit can blues. I've got the shit can blues. I've got the shit can blues. And anybody in line behind me, they got the shit can blues times 2.
All right.
Are you not getting a signal?
I'm,
We were overdriving on your guitar, so we switched this.
Oh, okay.
Now we're going to switch it back.
I believe, Bill, that your niece and her husband and this young man with the curly hair and these two, Margadine here and our MC's children might have started that Stella thing.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah. Just because they didn't want to go to bed when we wanted to. Man, porta pots, I mean, honestly, at Winfield, if you can catch them right about daylight when they've just hosed them out and they're clean, it's warm in there. And I actually have a photograph, a selfie, wearing a John Griffin T-shirt that I took when I was in there doing my work. There's a black pipe in the corner.
Right?
Yeah, and those things are really essential and important.
Yeah.
I was standing in a circle one evening, drinking moonshine and talking with some friends, and when they all left, my world kept spinning. That black pipe in the corner, it's for this. It'll keep you out of the holder. So.
You know, I love the term thunderbox. But did you know that in German they have a special word for a porta potty?
What's that?
Well, so they call a regular bathroom a Klo, okay? And they call a porta potty a Dixie Klo. And I don't know if they have anything against the South, but
Interesting.
it's just an interesting fact.
That's in Germany.
That's in Germany. It's called a Dixie Klo.
In Australia, it's a loo. So I've always wondered about the song "Skip to My Loo." I'm thinking they really needed to go. Yeah. I think that might really be where that came from.
But I say that as a successful protest song because the next year they brought a lot more porta potties.
Oh yeah.
The song was an instant hit in the campground.
And thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
hey, whatever I can do, Ernie.
Yeah, and Bill, you've been writing songs a while. You have quite a storied history as a songwriter.
A checkered
A
history.
checkered
yes.
story, yeah, and soon to be legendary, I would say. Bill manages several festivals and music events around Effingham, Illinois. But Bill's also, and I'll go back to this again, he writes everything. So, at what point in your life, Bill, before we decided you should be president, did you realize that you were going to be down that musician-songwriter road? And that's not all you do for a living, though, is it? You have other work that you do, is that right?
Well, all I do is music.
Okay, great.
But it's in some form or other, promoting primarily. But I also
Okay.
tour a little bit,
I see.
play. But I've been putting rhymes together since I was 7-year-old on the bus, writing little rhymes about the other kids on the bus.
Mhm.
But I took a different path. I went to college and I went to law school, and it wasn't until I was halfway through law school that I picked up the guitar and asked my dad to teach me how to play the guitar. And
Okay.
all my brothers played, my dad played, and so I had this figured out, but I didn't know where to put my fingers,
Mhm.
The first song I wrote was just really accidental. I didn't intend to be a songwriter. I was just I was writing the song for my dad for his organic farm market, and I wrote it just a jingle for him, and people liked it. And so he didn't like it that much, but everybody else liked it, and so then I moved to Austin, Texas. I was going to be a music attorney, like a music business attorney, and turned out there was lots and lots of music in Austin, but not that much business. So they didn't need a music business attorney, and I just started writing songs and playing out. And about 2 years after I moved to Austin, a friend of mine who was a great songwriter named Peter Kane, and blues player, he said, "Bill, if you ever want to get serious about songwriting and performing, you need to get out of Austin, get away from all the people that you know and love, and they're going to give you positive feedback no matter what, and go somewhere and woodshed and write and work at it and really work at it." So I sold everything I owned, and I moved to the Virgin Islands for the winter and spent about 3 months there doing that. And then when I got back to the States, I put a cap top on my truck, and I put a bed in the back, and I lived in my truck for the next 10 years, just driving around the country playing music, and that's how it all got started for me.
Did you see a lucrative light at the end of the tunnel? Did that drive you?
I'll tell you a very personal thing.
Okay.
And that is that when I was in law school, I accumulated a lot of student loan debt. And when I was living in the Virgin Islands, I realized that they couldn't get a hold of me there. And it's true. And I got back and I was in my truck and I was like, they can't get a hold of me here either. And I didn't have a phone or anything, and I was just driving around. I was like, hell, I could do this for the rest of my life. And then I met a girl, and and then so things changed. But it was a big turning point in my life. It was sort of a freedom from that choker, of that student loan debt. I was like, this is the way I can get out of this.
Mhm.
And I eventually paid it off and took care of it all, but for about 15 years I didn't.
Mhm.
And that was when I was on the lam. And that it was more the freedom that I was after than the money.
I see.
You know, I knew there wasn't a lot of money in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are tons and tons of horror stories of people who are rejected from the mainstream. So, you know, if you do it because you love it, it's going to be good. And if you're the only one listening to it, what difference does it make? Do it for yourself. And if someone likes it, fine.
Yeah.
There are millions of starving artists. And I just retired from my 30-year day job, and I'm officially a starving artist. I'm not starving, but, you know, I hope to starve a little. Yeah. Well, okay, we're going to move down to Elena. And Elena's going to do us a song, and we're going to talk about that.
I'm a little more, I get my inspiration for my songwriting a little more emotionally charged, I'd say. I don't really have a whole lot of happy songs. This is a song I wrote. It's called Lonely Hearts. It's a song about loving someone from afar and just getting that confidence to tell them how you feel. So.
Spend too
Thank you.
That's a beautiful melody and lyrics. Were you in love when you wrote that song?
I think I actually kind of inspired that song from watching a friend constantly come to me saying how much she loved this man and wanted to be with this man, but just didn't have the courage to let him know how she felt. So
Did you wind up playing that song for her man?
I think he actually was in the crowd a couple times. He doesn't know it's about him though.
you didn't point at her and him while you were.
I kept the secret.
Okay.
Yeah, I try to be a good friend, you know.
And you, are you originally from the Kansas Plains?
I am. I grew up in Leavenworth, Kansas. Which
Outside
if
of the
you're
walls?
outside the walls, yes. And then I actually spent about 10 years in Lawrence before I ended up in Eureka Springs, Arkansas.
We're glad to have you in Arkansas.
Thank you.
When you began songwriting, and as you realized you were going to write songs, you were probably influenced by the music you were listening to, were you? And did you play in a family band?
I actually, my parents had a love of music. None of them were actually songwriters or played any instruments. They kind of did a DJ business, stuff like that. So I was always around music and loved and appreciated it. I just remember kind of waking up one day and being like, I think I want to be a musician. You know, I went and I think I was 13 years old when I got my first acoustic guitar, and I've played a lot of different styles of music. Anything from like an indie rock band in high school, and then I played an Irish band for a long time after that, and actually went to my first Winfield and fell in love with bluegrass. So now I'm playing country and bluegrass, and yeah.
Did you write in high school, in the high school bands, or in the Irish
did.
bands? Did you write some Irish
yeah.
flavored tunes?
In high school, it was all original music.
Okay.
Wrote all of our own stuff. Recorded a couple albums. Yeah, we had a great time for probably about 4 or 5 years. It was kind of funny because I ended up in the Irish band from being at band practice one night. Our guitarist's mom heard me play. She's like, "Ooh, I think I'm going to go down there and ask if she wants to play with us." So I ended up in her Irish band, and they all kind of gave me heck for that for a while. It's like, "Mom, you stole her from us." So that's how I ended up playing Irish music.
Do you set out to write? Do you tell yourself, I'm going to write a song a day? Do you have a structure like that?
I really don't. I don't really have a process for how I come up with the songs other than I feel them. And when I feel that passion, that's when I go for it and sit down. I'll hear a melody in my head, I'll hear a phrase in my head, and I have a notebook I just jot things down in, and when the feeling's there, that's when I go to write.
I see.
So.
And you know when that feeling's there.
Yes.
And if you don't, do you find yourself letting something go and later on hearing something similar on down the road?
Oh, yes. When I actually moved to Arkansas, I found probably about 10 notebooks full of stuff. And as soon as I was flipping through these pages looking at these old lyrics, I was like, oh, man, I remember this. So we actually picked up a few, and we're playing them now. So.
You know, Arlo Guthrie said that songwriting is like fishing. And you reel one in, you either keep it or you throw it back. Someone else is going to get it. I call that the cosmic stream. And Arlo Guthrie said he would hate to be sitting downstream from Bob Dylan. He wouldn't be catching anything, you know. So it works differently for everyone. I think growing up in Kansas myself, I lived there until I was about 8 years old, and I go out in the wheat fields, and you could see forever. You know, and so there was very little left of the imagination unless you looked up at the sky and the clouds would be dancing around. And we moved down to Arkansas after a roundabout trip across the country, and all of a sudden we're in the mountains and you couldn't see over them. So I'm thinking I had this perspective from looking out forever, and now I've got to use my imagination to see what's on the other side of this hill, you know. But I didn't think about writing songs. I just wanted to know, you know. And my mother was a songwriter. Yeah, and played on a radio show in Wichita way back in the 50s, and she made sure we had instruments and taught us, you know, we had to learn to harmonize before we could go outside and play. We were never formally trained or anything like that, you know. But yeah, I never considered myself a songwriter until I was a sneaky little kid in the 9th grade and discovered marijuana and Mel Bay chord books. So you know, America was the big, you know, the big band at the time, and they were doing all these funky major 7th stuff, right? Yeah. So I'm sitting there trying to get away with dipping snuff in a red plastic glass, and my dad's watching Gunsmoke. And across the field from us was this hill called Badger Mountain. And so I'm sitting there thinking, you know, just doing these Mel Bay, this thing. And Dylan and Julie, this is in D, it's a sappy song. But, yeah, going back and forth like that, and I lift my red cup and spit in it because Dad thought it was tea. I thought, this is, you know, I know I'm doing it. Later on, he told me he knew what I was doing. He knew I'd get sick trying to sing and mess with tobacco. So this is called Badger Mountain Woods, and I was just thinking about what we did at the time. You know, as a 9th grader, we drove without a driver's license. We drove with a full 6-pack of beer and a lot of marijuana. This was Sequoia County, Oklahoma. And later on, I read a book by Carl Sagan called The Dragons of Eden. It's all about the brain. And I would not encourage anyone to do this. You probably already have. But his theory was that the tars that came from the THC in the brain would actually interfere and interrupt some nerve signals and allow clutter to go away, for him anyway. He was a genius, you know. Well, for me, it's opposite. It brings clutter in, and I have to sort it out. I had to sort her out at 13. I don't remember whatever happened after that. This is called Badger Mountain Woods. Yeah. First song I ever wrote. I'm sitting around this campfire just talking to my friends, wondering if this here night is ever gonna end. The rain stopped falling yesterday and things were looking good. I think I sing this song about the Badger Mountain Woods. Well, I think I sing this song about the Badger Mountain Woods. On a warm night like this, the frogs are croaking words of love, and a coyote yells with a little help from the lonesome turtle dove. And I hold you tight, the bright moonlight gives me rushes that are good. I like walking barefoot down the old creek road in the Badger Mountain Woods. I like walking barefoot down the old creek road in the Badger Mountain Woods. And now everyone is trying to get ahead some, and they're going at it like a crazy person would. Because as long as I can pick on this old guitar, well, I think I'd rather get lost with you, Andrew. Well, you know, I'd love to get lost with you. Well, I'm sure I'd love to get lost with you.
Sorry, Patty.
In the Badger Mountain Woods. In the Badger Mountain Woods. Well, it's dawn now. I see the sun is shining through the trees, and it sparkles on the water, cool and clear. And now the whippoorwills, they're singing to the daisies on the hill. I know heaven can't be much too far from here. I know heaven can't be much too far from here. And now everyone is trying to get ahead, son, and they're going at it like a crazy person would. Because as long as I can pick on this old guitar, well, I think I'd rather get lost with you. No, I'd rather get lost with you. Well, I'm sure I'd love to get lost with you in the Badger Mountain Woods. In the Badger Mountain Woods. Well, the fire's dying down now, and I think it's time to go. Thank you. Didn't have a girlfriend at the time, but I do now. Same way, yeah. But our buddy, the Badger Mountain, the creek, that's all real there. And our friends, we'd go out and we'd pick and we'd sing and we'd do the crazy thing we couldn't remember the next day. But that flowed.
It makes it easier to write songs when people give place names interesting, descriptive names like Badger Mountain Woods.
Okay, hey, thank you. There's
Right.
an airstrip on top of that thing. It's guarded with 3 German Shepherds, and believe me, I outran them. And then I went back looking for my friend, and I couldn't find him anywhere, and I found out he was faster than me and didn't care where I was. Yeah, but that was a stream of consciousness song that happened all at once with no intention other than the fact that I was sitting there with the Mel Bay core book trying to learn America songs so I could jam with my friends.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that came from.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
I think a lot of the best tunes I find tend to come out at once, kind of like that. Just sort of if you can just sit down and let it come out, I think it somehow can create really good stuff. It's like an interesting paradox. Bill's talking about going and actually like workshopping and woodshedding really hard, and I think that's like you really have to do that. I think you have to write like tons and tons of songs before you have a perspective on just like, is this a good song or is this not a good song? But at the same time, it can have like diminishing returns if you work too hard. I feel like you kind of
Absolutely.
like try too hard to like inject some sense of like meaning or like, I don't know, just like it's like an interesting kind of paradox. Like you sort of have to work really hard at your craft, but also let yourself back off. Do you feel like that too?
Absolutely. I think that you after you do it lots and lots and lots, like shooting free throws or whatever, you sort of become intuitive about what's going to work, and you let yourself go in that direction. Whereas you may have chased it in the wrong direction the first 40 times you did it or 50 times you did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think it's a combination of inspiration and perspiration. But
Inspiration, perspiration, and sometimes saturation
saturation.
and constipation. Block. Oh, we're moving back to Julie and Andrew.
I kind of want to do this song. You're talking about not doing stuff like for commercial reasons. We're doing a terrible job of picking songs here because none of these are recorded. But I promise you, we have 3 exceptional CDs that you can purchase from us. None of these tunes are on them, but
Where can we get these CDs?
We got a
Out
little
back.
suitcase right there.
we got a little suitcase right here. We'll just be hanging out afterwards.
And watch your programs too for their next set. So, yeah.
Elena was talking about kind of her songs coming from sort of an emotional level, and it reminded me, Bob Dylan's birthday was not that long ago, and I was reading this article that was an interview kind of in the era when he did his Shadows in the Night record, when he was doing all those like Frank Sinatra tunes, and he said, he was like, when you're young, you can get away with what's it called? A lot of emotion, but when you're old, like you can't get away with that anymore.
Was it angst? Was that it? Or I don't remember.
I don't know. I think he said if you're young, you got to be really emotional, but when you get old, you got to get wise, or else you kind of look like a fool. This like 70-year-old man like crying about a breakup. Like.
You're looking at one. I don't know.
But anyway, I thought that was kind of a fun interview. But this is sort of a halfway emotional. I don't know, kind of an emotion I was feeling at a certain point. Anyway, it's called "It Might Be Time to Get a Straight Job." All right. It might be time to get a straight job and move off of Pappy's farm. Quit my bumming, stop strumming, sell the old flat top guitar. But at night when I sleep, those monsters they creep right up to my bed and they kill me dead. And then I'm walking towards that little white light. I see a nasty looking old St. Peter's eye. He says you lived your sorry excuse of a life, running around like a begging stray dog, always looking for a place to hang your head and a meal to get you along. Oh, you ain't welcome behind these pearly gates. This ain't your pappy's farm. You best get away. He fired a shotgun at my feet and I ran down to the old river Styx where I jumped in. It was there I started drowning. So after I'd already died, I died again. When I woke up, I was a frog, hopping round on a lily pad, picking on an old flat top guitar and living with my dad. So it might be time to get a straight job and move off of Pappy's farm. Quit my bumming, stop strumming, and sell the old flat top guitar.
How old is that song, Andrew?
Hey, thanks. It's kind of. Does anybody know? There's this songwriter named Jeffrey Lewis.
From Wisconsin?
I think he's from New York City.
Okay.
A buddy of mine in college turned me on to him, and he does a lot of these kind of sort of really great tunes, kind of like in that vein, that keep going places, and you're just going, "What the hell is this guy talking about?" And I love that. And he had a really great song on a record called "A Turn in the Dream Songs." And the song was called "Krongu Green Sludge," or Green Slime, maybe. And it's like all about kind of like
Primordial earth.
yeah, the primordial ooze, and sort of like about how there's this corporation like pumping out green slime, and then it like turns into like humanity or something. And he does this just excellent job of taking these sort of like weird outsider kind of concepts and turning them into like a nice, I don't know, just kind of like getting to some like sentimental bit in there. And I always really liked that, and I was really happy with how that kind of tune turned out.
Mm-hmm.
That song I just played is sort of goofy, you know, where you kind of go through sort of, you know, I kind of kill myself in the song multiple times, which is really fun for Julie. But
I like the idea of, as opposed to being born again, being dead again.
Yeah. Great.
it's kind of fun to go through all the different sort of like ways you can die and just
Yeah.
kind of keep killing yourself. It's sort of fun, but sort of gets to this. I don't know. Anyway.
This particular song is now. Did you write melody and lyric with that?
Yeah. I just kind of sat down, and it pretty much all came out except for the very last bit where I turned into a frog.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I'm like kind of the main songwriter for the Match Sellers, but I really have to say, Bill was talking about finding good criticism, somebody who will tell you if you suck, and I think that's like Julie.
That's my job.
Yeah. I mean, really, I think Julie is just incredibly instrumental to my songwriting, because I really have somebody who I can go to and like play the song for, and Julie's like, you know, it's a really good song, but it needs something else, you know, like it's not quite finished. You need to have something else in there.
Yeah.
And I think she came up with the idea of like, you know, like, oh, you should be reincarnated or something.
Okay.
Did I? I don't remember that. I'll take credit.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, kind of what Bill was talking about, like having somebody to really like call you out if it's not as good as it should be or could be, you know.
You don't always listen to me, but
Well, yeah,
I guess
I mean,
you gotta decide for yourself.
Do you
It's
ever-
your songs.
Do you ever feel a little edgy when the truth comes out? like that, like I do when Patty edits my songs?
I mean, yeah, sometimes I just get mad and I'm like, no, you're totally wrong,
Okay.
Julie. That song about the pigeon and dove is a good song.
It's a great song.
She was like, this.
I
and
didn't like that one.
Julie hated that
I
song.
was wrong.
Oh.
And like, I forced her to play it on stage one time, and it was just like, I mean, no one had heard it before, and it just was like dropping dynamite in this room that we were playing. I mean,
great.
people just went nuts.
Yeah.
And
We loved it. I mean, we've had this discussion about pigeons and doves, so it really resonated with us.
yeah, now all the time I get like texts from people. This song is on our CD that you can purchase, the one I'm talking about. But now I get texts and messages and emails all the time. People like pick birds and crap and stupid. I generally don't even want it, but I'm nice and I'm like, oh, thanks.
Okay.
Hey, they think about you. That's
No,
that's
I'm just
the
kidding.
important
yeah,
part.
I'm just
We all
kidding.
are lovable. This next question is going to be for everybody, and then we'll move on. We'll move on to Bill. But I would like to know, when you start out in your day, and you know you're a full-time musician. You're a full-time musician. You all are full-time musicians. I'm not. I'm not. But the music is always rolling around in there. You know, and when I'm hopefully we'll have time to devote to that. But throughout the course of your day, do you tell yourself, I have to write a song today?
No, I don't.
Has anyone ever, have you ever attended a workshop for someone and said, you have to write a song today?
I'm gonna say most
Okay.
of the time no. I don't feel like I have to write a song, but if I don't know, a lot of days I wake up and I'm just like, what the hell am I doing with my life? And if I write a song, I feel better. So I kind of try to
Well,
encourage myself.
sometimes you'll just say like, oh, I haven't written a song in a while. I just need to write some more songs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes I try not to be too like
Regimental.
dogmatic about it, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Regimented. You mentioned a word. Okay, so Bill, go ahead. I'm going to keep that thought.
When I was writing songs a lot, and I don't write a lot of songs now. I write a few a year. You know, if I'm lucky, I get 3 or 4 good ones a year.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was writing songs a lot, I didn't have to try to write songs at all. I just kept getting these ideas, and I was homeless. I had all the time in the world. I could just write songs, you know. And I did. I wrote several times. I'd write 2 or 3 in a day, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they weren't as good as I wanted them to be. But again, getting back to what you said, you know, you take that experience with you, even if you don't keep the song.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, I find myself saying, "That's a great idea for a song,"
Yeah.
and then I don't write it.
Yeah.
And
I
how-
get to work instead. I do get work on the computer, or you know, go
Yeah.
mow the grass, or whatever. But if the idea comes back to me again a couple times, then the next song I'm going to do, I'll tell about that a little bit. It's exactly
Okay.
the thing that happened.
Okay.
I feel like I owe it to the song. You know, I feel like I have an obligation to the song to write it,
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Atlanta?
like as a fish begging to be caught.
There you go. There you go.
I really just don't try to force anything.
Mhm.
I just let it come when it comes. I feel like if I try to force anything, I usually end up getting pretty frustrated with
Mhm.
what I'm trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't end up where I want it to be.
Mhm.
Dylan and I have kind of talked about starting to write songs together, though. So we've kind of decided maybe we'll select a topic. We're gonna see how it goes,
Mhm.
but
Wow.
brainstorm on it for a week and kind of see where it takes us. Probably after a couple days of having some thought into it. So we're gonna test that, see if we can maybe get some. He's taken a big interest in songwriting, so writing together is kind of something we're looking forward to. But generally, for the stuff that we've already recorded, I just kind of let it come when it comes, and
Mhm.
I just don't force anything. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And that's natural.
Yeah.
That's perfect. I have set in, from a distance, from some workshops. I've never paid to go to one, but I have covered them, you know, for One Eye Valley and places like that. I do write. I'm a music journalist, and I have seen structure, and I have seen people teach songwriting workshops from the standpoint that they're songwriters. They want to help you build a song, and that's perfectly fine. where you start is up to the person that's telling you that. And so we have Kerrville, for example. Patty and I did house concerts for a while, and we would catch a lot of Kerrville songwriters coming through. I could see a similarity in a lot of the music, and I think it was because of what they were being taught about. You know, if you wanna write a song, hear something you love, make it your own. And I used to think, no, don't do that. You can get in trouble for it. You know, you can get sued for it. Well, you know what? I found out it doesn't matter. Now, if you want to take the risk, yeah, take somebody's tune and try to change it up enough. But if let's say if you were to rewrite Puff the Magic Dragon, you're going to court. You know, I mean, and Pete, you know, that family is a very lovely, Peter, Paul, and Mary, Peter, Yo, very lovely, friendly family, but their attorneys are making money, and they're going to make sure they make money. You know, so the creative spark is in you. It's in everybody. It may not be songwriting. It may be something totally different. It may be art and songwriting like John Griffin does, you know. It may be training your dog. It may be training me. You know what I'm saying? If you don't force yourself, if you let it flow, then you're going to be happier, a lot happier than if you make yourself. If you just wake up and say, I'm going to go to this workshop, I'm going to pay $800, I'm going to sit in this circle, and I'm going to learn how to write a song. And, you know, and someone says, hey, that sounds just like Mary Had a Little Lamb. Oh, okay. Chances are you're going to write a song later that does sound exactly like something else somebody wrote, and it will be totally incidental. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I find that a lot, too, with a lot of my tunes. And that's also one reason why I think it's really important in songwriting to like learn other tunes, like learn to play songs that are good, you know, to kind of, I'm not to totally rip it off, but to, you know,
Just find out what's good about it.
yeah,
and
find
Train
out what's
yourself
good
on what's
about
good,
it.
right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and the more music you listen to, the more apt it is for that to happen.
And that's another thing I just wanted to say. I think it's important too, like what you listen to. I think we live in like a time and an era where you could listen to like anything forever, eternally. But I think, at least I feel like, you know, I only have a set amount of time to devote to listening, and so I really want to pick things that I think are really good and listen to them over and over and over again to kind of unlock those secrets. Anyway, sorry.
Okay. And Bill, it's your turn to sing too.
Oh, okay. Can I plug my
bet.
my festival?
Oh yeah.
I have
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, I have a festival coming up in 3 weeks called the Moccasin Creek Festival. I book it myself, but since you're here for the Story Songs Showcase, I will tell you we have a number of excellent songwriters coming to the festival. We have Daryl Scott, John Fulbright.
Yeah.
We have Slade Cleaves. We have the Steel Wheels, Chicago
Yay.
Farmer, Edward
Mm.
David Anderson.
Yay.
We got the Way Down Wonders and on and on. Violet and the Undercurrents. So if you like that kind of stuff, I'd love to talk to you about it. Little cards. But we have an ad in the program, so you can check it out right there in the program. Website's in there and everything. So.
Bill is also one of our MCs now, going on 3 years. So you'll see Bill all around the stages doing that too. And thank you for doing that.
Thanks for having me back. This is year four, I think.
Year 4. Wow.
I think.
Where'd that go, man?
So I'm going to write sing a song that I wrote, most recent song that I've written, actually. It's also not on one of my CDs, which I do have for sale. But this is one of those situations where I woke up, I made coffee, I did all the things you do in the morning, and I sat at my desk and I realized I didn't have any pressing work to do. And I thought, you know what? No one's awake, no one's home, I'm just going to write a song. And so I looked out the window, and it was December. I looked out the window, and there's a big tree there, and it didn't have any leaves on it. And it was cold outside and kind of gray. And I wrote this song. And it's reflects the idea that I was going through my head a lot at that time, which was I'm getting married in 3 weeks at the festival. And I was thinking about my last marriage, my previous marriage, and I was thinking where it went wrong and what I did wrong and how it could be better, you know, and what I needed to do to make this marriage successful. And I decided that not being really super obstinate would be a good idea. So the song I wrote about that. I got my back to the sunset, watching as my shadow grows. Here it is almost tomorrow. Here I stand in yesterday's clothes. and you've been gone for a year now. Why can't I let you go? I keep looking over my shoulder, standing here, yesterday's clothes. You asked me to give just a little, to compromise, find the middle. And those words rattled and rang like a riddle. And now the cold wind blows. It's coming on winter, and the big oak tree looks so lonely and foolish without any leaves. And I'm the only one who grieves, standing here in yesterday's clothes. You bought me blue jeans and flannel. Wood smoke and clove filled my nose, and stockings hung from the mantle, but now they're just yesterday's clothes. Maybe I clean out my closet and reconsider the fashion I chose. I'm gonna take a long hard look in the mirror. I'm gonna change out of yesterday's clothes. You asked me to give just a little, to compromise, find the middle. And those words rattled and they rang like a riddle. Now the cold wind blows, it's a coming on winter, and a big oak tree looks so lonely and foolish without any leaves. And I'm the only one who grieves, standing here in yesterday's clothes. I'm the only one who grieves, standing here in yesterday's clothes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I do have a quick question before we move to Atlanta. We're getting close.
Yeah.
We still got some time.
I talk fast. Go ahead.
Hey, rhyming. Flannel
Rhyming.
and mantle. Flannel and mantle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Does rhyming just come? Do you have to work at rhyming? Does it just flow with you? Do you sit down and just get it going?
I think it comes to me pretty easily. Some people have been critical. Some honest critics have told me that I can't rhyme. If you own a weapons plant, would you be in? Would your what was it? I can't remember the rhyme now. It was something ridiculous rhyme, and he's a rap fan, and I was like, he's like, rap people couldn't even get away with that rhyme. But yeah, I feel like I have a natural way of it.
Okay.
That's the thing that I started doing. That was easiest for me.
And then that's
Finding meaning was harder for me, Ernie, than
finding
the
meaning.
rhyme.
I identify with that. Let someone else figure out the meaning.
Being honest and open enough to share the meaning
Yes.
maybe is the hard thing.
Okay. Did you guys get that? So yeah. Elena, would you do us another song, please?
This next song is a song I probably wrote when I was about 16 or 17. Just ended a high school relationship, was feeling pretty heartbroken. Went to school the next day and saw he was with someone else.
Aw.
So this is
What a
called Sing to
loser.
Me.
Putting flowers in my hair, laying down my feet were bare, to make trouble, so I got some. But your heart can't overcome. Too much sorrow and empty space. taking all that I can take. I can't make you love me so. If I tried, you'll let me go. Only sing to me, baby. Tell me you miss my face. Please don't tell me all my time is wasted on another blue-eyed girl. And she turned you on. Sing to me, baby. Tell me our love ain't gone. Sing to me, baby. Tell me you miss my face. Please don't tell me all my time is wasted on another blue-eyed girl. And she turned you on. Sing to me, baby. Tell me our love ain't gone.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. So who's your biggest inspiration as a singer-songwriter that comes to mind?
Oh, I've always been a big fan of Alison Krauss, Gillian Welch.
Okay.
Both of those are very strong influences.
I
to
can hear the
me, so
influence, but I hear your original freshness too. That's so great.
Thank you.
We've got roughly about 5 minutes, and first of all, Julie and Andrew, when is your next set and where?
Our next set is at 9 o'clock over on the Hippie Hill stage, and we'll be doing the full. I don't know if anybody caught our Bluegrass Astronauts set yesterday, but thanks for coming.
We can see it again.
We can see it again with lights. All right, so we'll have some outer space lights, and then we'll be doing an all John Hartford set tomorrow morning at 11 on the main stage.
Great.
Yeah.
Right after that all Hartford set, we'll be doing our songwriter showcase and our songwriting contest, which is held online. Our top 5 will be presenting their original songs. So come early and stay and check out our songwriters. We have close to 100 songs now about John Hartford, inspired by John Hartford, with John Hartford song titles archived on our website at hartfordfest.com. So be sure and check that out and listen to these people and write us a song. Get in on the contest for next year. So, and Dylan and Elena, they are the Whispering Willows, and they'll be playing after the next set here. And the next set here is Betty Hartford storytelling. It's called a workshop. Actually, you're going to learn who Betty Hartford is. There's a lot more to Betty Hartford than you probably ever would have imagined. And her daughter Katie and grandson Liam will be here too. So before we go here, I'd like to, I've never done this before and I've never asked anyone to do it, but I feel comfortable with these people and with you all too. So I think I would like to try to steal a song and totally bastardize it, a beautiful song, and I think we could do it. It's been rolling around my head. It's, if I had a hammer, okay, you know, I'd ring it in the morning, I ring it in the evening, I ring it all over this land, right? Okay, instead of hammer, come up with your own word as we pass it around, and you know, yeah, for instance, like if I had a dump truck, I'd dump it in the morning. What do you think? You want to try it?
All right, sure.
Okay.
I'll do
Yeah.
anything. No one's recording, right?
Right. Yeah, everybody. And if something happens, if you got one, raise your hand and shout it. If I had a paintbrush, man, I'd paint it in the morning. If I had a laxative, I'd take it in the morning. Okay. All right. Hey, we don't even have to have music, but I think we're in A. Is that okay? Or what's good for you, Andrew?
Oh, A's great.
Okay, I'm just capable of boom. If I had a, okay. All right. Hey, I'll do with here's an example. You ready? And get your thinking caps on here and tune in. Okay. If I had a dump truck, I'd dump it in the morning.
Why not?
I'd dump it in the evening, all over this land. I'd dump out danger. I'd dump out a warning. I'd dump out love between my brothers and my sisters all over this land.
No, you go. No, I don't.
Well, if I had a dream, I'd dream it in the morning. I'd dream it in the evening, all over this land. I'd dream out all sorts of dreams and all sorts of warnings, and I'd dream out love between my brothers and my sisters all over this land.
Wonderful.
If I had a fishing pole, I'd fish in the morning, I'd fish in the evening, all over this land. I'd fish out danger, I'd fish out some justice. I fish out love between my brothers and my sisters all over this land.
Well, I'm going to try it here. I'm not a songwriter. I'm just a fiddle player playing guitar. So, here we go. If I had an Airstream trailer, I wouldn't have to rent a hotel. I wouldn't have to rent a hotel and then sleep on the ground. If I had an Airstream trailer, then I might know the chords to this song. Da 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 da. Back to you, Ernie.
Back to me. Anybody got one? Hey, what do you got?
If I had the end. Oh.
Anybody else? Got one? Quick. Got one. That's great. Hey, I've got a hug, and I'll pass it in the morning, I'll pass it in the evening, all over this land. I'll hug out danger, I'll hug out a warning, I'll hug out love between my brothers and my sisters all over this land. Falsetto, everybody.
That was cosmic.
All right. Well, give a great big hand for Julie Bates, Andrew Morse, Bill Poss, Dylan Hoff, and Elena Hoff. And please stick around. Betty Hartford's going to be right here.